Hello and welcome to The Real Entrepreneurs with Sergio Angulo. I'm your host, Sergio Angulo, yours truly. And we are bringing this podcast to you from San Diego, California during the Latitude Conference. Today is Thursday, September 22nd, and it's 7:53 p.m. And this is episode number 6. Today, we have an amazing guest on the show, the one and only Christopher Benyamein. Krys, welcome.
Thank you, brother. It's great to be here.
I am super stoked. I just want to say we had a 45-minute conversation, everyone, before the show. We got super deep into so many things.
We were priming the pump.
We were totally priming the pump.
No, I'm hyped to be here, man. I'm flattered for you to have me out here. This is such a production that you've put together. So yeah, we're the blessed ones.
I honestly can't wait. I mean, don't tell anybody. Don't tell any of the other guests. But this was the one that I was waiting for all day. Okay, I'm just gonna say.
Sorry, Denise.
Exactly. So let's just jump right into it, Krys. Yeah. Tell me, what is a top, producing real estate agent?
Other than the Instagram handle?
Other than a Tesla and a Rolex.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a top producing real estate agent is really somebody who is putting the client first. So obviously helping people buy and sell real estate, helping people invest into real estate. But I think the top producer comes from being able to serve. And from my experience, being around a lot of other top producers, they seem to be the ones that are giving the most without sort of expecting anything back. And I think that's the distinction between a true top producer and somebody who is putting it in the bio.
Just putting it in the bio.
Or
just being mediocre really with it.
Right, exactly. So I really think it's the kind of service that you're giving and putting other people before you, putting your clients before you. That's what makes you on top.
Wow, I love that. Good answer. Perfect answer. Nice, short, and exactly to the point. I like it.
Thanks, man.
Tell me your story, Krys, because your story, that was you guys hear that? Oof. Your story is so impactful, right? I mean, I know bits here and there, right? And I stalk you on social. I'm going to be honest with you.
Thanks, man.
Highlights, you climb Mount Everest, you did 100 plus transactions last year. You're building a team. It's you and your mom, partnered up, working with family, right? You have so much going on. Who is Krys Benyamein?
I'd be asking myself that question every day.
Every day.
Well, we'll fast forward to sort of the parts that got me into real estate. So I went to college at American University in Washington, D.C. I studied economics and political science. After undergrad, I went to law school at UNLV, so Nevada, Las Vegas.
Oh, okay.
And from there, I passed the bar. I moved up to Lake Tahoe, where I was working as a criminal defense attorney in Reno. And I did that for a bunch of years, and I loved it. I loved being in a courtroom.
So you were in law before then?
I was.
Wow, that's a shift.
It's this immigrant mentality thing. My family, we're first generation from Egypt. And from the time that I was born, I feel like I had two options. You're either going to be a doctor or a lawyer. And, I have 16 first cousins in the United States. 16 first cousins, 13 are physicians.
Whoa, 13?
13.
Oh, wow,
and
okay.
I thought I was I'm the black sheep that went to law school. Yeah, it's funny.
Crazy.
And then I ended up marrying a doctor. But so I went to law school, and I really didn't know why, other than I was told that's what I was supposed to do.
First generation. I'm first generation as well, so totally can relate. 100%.
There's that familial pressure. It's mom and dad sacrificed a lot for us to be here.
Go to college.
Make them proud.
Yep.
So I was grateful. I passed the bar, and I started working as a public defender, actually. So it's indigent defense for people that get into trouble. And it was a wonderful opportunity. It was a great experience. I loved being in a courtroom. But I met my wife, who was relocating to San Diego, actually.
Oh, wow.
She was starting her residency here. And I just kind of felt like if I didn't make a change, that I was going to be there forever. And I was very happy. I was climbing. Life was good. But my family has been in this business 34 years now. My dad is a broker. My mom has been one of the top producing salespeople in Southern California.
Legendary?
She'd a goat.
Legendary.
Nahid is a big fish in the game. So I knew that they had a lot to offer me as far as knowledge, as far as resources. And when my now wife decided to, like, when she was moving down here, I said, like, it's time for a change of pace. So I rented out my house in Lake Tahoe. I hung up my law license and I moved to Southern California, and I jumped into the business with mom and dad in 2018.
Wow.
So,
and the rest is just history almost.
The rest is just about history. That's kind of where I got started, which is crazy because it'll be 4 years in October.
Wow.
Yeah, so not even 4 years, barely scratching at the surface of this. Yeah.
A real entrepreneur takes the leap of faith, right? Just goes all in.
100%.
You studied for years. You passed the bar, right? Like, you had this job, I'm sure it was paying well.
Right.
And you just did it.
You do. You have to, like, you got to trust that the universe is giving you things to help you get where you want to go. And I think I heard this at church last weekend, and it was like, we're so focused on our plan, we're not thinking about what maybe like the bigger plan is. So it's easy to want to have it all figured out. And I was terrified switching over. I did work so hard for this degree. I studied so hard for the bar. I was learning the language of the courtroom. So there is a lot of anxiety switching over, but you got to trust the process, and you got to trust that the universe provides. And the truth is, if it was easy, then everybody would be doing it. Exactly. So there's sort of that appeal that it's like you cut your teeth, you work hard, and the rest falls into place.
Agreed. And pick your heart, right? I mean, what is it that you want to... What is it that you're going to grind at, right?
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, entrepreneurs, we're grinders, right? We are like, we're pushing. And so it's like, what is it that you're going to do?
I think that's seriously the key that a lot of people don't recognize is you could fill in the blank real estate for anything. And if you want to be successful, if you want to make money, if you want to change lives, you just have to work really hard. It don't matter what the service is. You fill in the blank. Plumber, lawyer, doctor,
whatever it is.
Whatever it is, ain't no handouts. You're going to grind. You just have to figure out what it is that you want to spend the time doing because there's no substitute.
Yeah. And what's going to be there for you when you're like on those days where it's like lonely.
Right.
Because it's lonely sometimes when you're tired, when you're not feeling it. Like it has to really be something that's going to like push you forward. And that's gonna really take you to the next step, right? And that's gonna push you to keep going. So you have to love it, ultimately.
Right? You really do have to love it, and I think that's the hard part for people to sort of figure out is that if you find something you enjoy, it will get you through the parts that you don't enjoy. Yeah. And I think especially real estate. I imagine a lot of this audience is real estate agents. It's funny how we want to hate on parts of the job. Well, sometimes I feel like agents are hating on every on the whole thing. They don't want to do
anything.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like,
they just want to deposit the check. You know?
Yeah, and you're like, well, that's just such a small part of the job. I wish that was 24/7. But you have to find what it is that you like because that is what fills up your cup when the other pieces are taking away from you. So as you feel more comfortable on camera or doing this podcast, maybe it's not what's driving the business yet. But it's giving you energy and it's filling up your cup and it's motivating you to be like, I'm going to pick up these calls. I'm going to make these calls. I'm going to do this at a high level because this opportunity is allowing me to do it.
It's filling up that bucket, right? Essentially, that I need filled so that I can go take on those challenges.
That's exactly right.
And take that punch and just keep going.
That's exactly right.
Let's take it back a little bit. Okay, your story. I mean, you were in law, you transitioned to real estate, and then you go and climb Mount freaking Everest, man. What happened there? Why? I mean, why not really? But like, what was it? Like, why did you do that?
So that is how I decided to climb Mount Everest. It was a very why not moment.
Got it.
And I think some people, entrepreneurs for sure, it's appealing to pursue something that other people are scared to pursue. It's almost like we see barriers and it's how do I overcome them?
Yeah.
How do I climb over it? How do I climb up it?
Yeah.
So I ended up at UNLV Law. Las Vegas is the mecca of rock climbing. Not a lot of people know that.
Interesting.
The best rock climbing in the world.
Okay.
And
I mean, I just know it for like drinking.
Yeah, but like
and
most
playing
people,
poker.
like what most people go to Vegas to do. But Vegas has some great rock climbing, and that's where I fell in love with the sport. It's really where I wanted to spend more of my time doing. So when the opportunity came to move to Lake Tahoe and I could keep rock climbing but get a real job, I was like, it's a no-brainer.
Let's do it.
Yeah, and I just started ticking off smaller peaks. But Everest specifically, I was 21. I was in college. I graduated early. Somebody was like, what are you going to do with the time before you go to law school? And I was like, I don't know. Let's figure it out. And as a joke, one of my buddies said, well, what about Mount Everest?
And you were like, let's do it.
That's exactly what it was.
God.
I said, let's go discover yourself, baby.
Let's do it.
So I left to Nepal. Wow. I took a 4-week trek, no climbing. I wasn't a climber then. It was a hike from a village called Jiri all the way to Everest Base Camp. And that village, the reason I started from there is because that's where the first people to ever climb Everest started. And it was a 4-week hike. 4 weeks just to get to base camp. And I remember getting there and seeing the mountain for the first time, 21 years old, thinking to myself, I would love to climb this one day.
Wait a minute. You went? You've gone twice then?
Yes.
Oh my God. This story just like, okay. So you went when you're 21 before you go to law school, and like you go on this hike.
Correct.
It takes 4 weeks.
Correct.
And then you're there and you're looking up at the mountain.
I'm looking up at the mountain and I see it for the first time and I grip my chest and I think to myself, how wild is it to feel so small in the presence of something so big? And if you've ever been in the ocean or you've ever been surfing or snowboarding, you know, there are these moments where you really see where you're at in the universe. And I think especially with business, being on podcasts, making money, blah, 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 it's like easy to think that we're like a big deal. Yeah. And nature is a great way to humble you. It's like no better way to get put in check. So I see
love that.
That's the truth, man. So I see the mountain. I make the decision that I'm going to do this, and I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. And I really believe as soon as you put out your intention in the universe, in the atmosphere, God hears it, things just begin to fall in place for you, and you don't even know why. Yeah. So I ended up in Las Vegas. It wasn't a coincidence that it was the best rock climbing. From there, I ended up in Tahoe. It wasn't a coincidence that it was closer to bigger mountains. Yeah. And then I just started ticking off smaller ones. And for 10 years, I was climbing other mountains, all with the goal of one day going back to Everest. Whoa. And that's really what it was, is I climbed for 10 years, and I just did it. I summited May 15th, 2022. I've been back 3 months.
Oh my gosh. Experience, like just a couple pointers there. Like, how was the actual climb? What were some of the hard parts? What were some of the highlights? Like, what did you like?
So
I ask because I've never met anybody that's ever done something like this. So I'm so interested.
I appreciate it, man. And I'm flattered. It really is one of these things that I think if you want it, you just have to go do it with a plan. Yeah, so like anything, it's like put together the plan. I would say from a physical standpoint, and this is the truth, I was a different person then than I was now physically because I was training so hard to do this. Wow. From a physical standpoint, I don't think Mount Everest is the pinnacle of like physical capacity.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Like at no point did I think, oh man, can I do this? I was training and so dialed in that from a physical standpoint and mental, I had it under control.
You knew you can do it.
And I knew I could do it. Okay. And I look back to the 2 months that I was climbing because I spent 2 months out there. I was gone from March to June.
2 months?
2 months.
Climbing the mountain.
2 months climbing the mountain. It's a big trip. So
March till June?
I left March 28th or March 29th, and I came back like June 1st. So I was gone a while.
I was sleeping and writing offers and like going on some appointments. Man, you were out. It was cold, I'm sure.
It was very cold, but it was my dream, and it was something that I had worked so long for.
Amazing.
I would say probably one of the hardest things that I wasn't prepared to deal with, climbing Mount Everest was all of the emotions that you deal with coming back. And that was something that nobody ever talked to me about and nobody prepared me for. And that's why I mean it very delicately and I mean it respectfully to everyone that's ever climbed Mount Everest. But you train for it and then you visualize it and you do everything that you need to be successful. And that's why I really did have such a good time for the 2 months that I was there. But I never prepared for the feelings that I would have coming back.
Wow.
And
very interesting.
Yeah, and you don't think about that. It's kind of like
I know.
you just don't think like whatever your goals are. When you hit your goal, let's say it's to sell 100 houses, and December 31st, house number 100 closed. January 1st is still coming, and you're still going to wake up. What are you doing at that point? What have you told yourself is going to happen when you sell 100 houses? Do you just stop working? Do you just stop climbing? And I never walked through what that was going to be like. I never...
It kind of like just hit you like all at once almost.
It hit me fucking hard, man.
Wow.
It hit me.
Wow.
It hit me very hard. And I think to deal with the emotions of getting back in the routine of work, to get back in the routine of my family, to be back in the flow of like being there for my wife was difficult for me because for years, all you're focused on is one thing.
It's just to do it, just to climb the mountain.
And anybody in my life knew that that's all I was talking about. And when they were talking to me, I was thinking about that. Like everybody knew that this was the focus and the priority. And then once it's gone, you feel a little bit of a void. You feel a little bit of like you're missing something. And when I came back, I remember thinking to myself crazy things. Do I wish that I didn't summit? Honest to goodness, like
Really?
the thought ran through my head, like if I didn't make it to the top, then I would have a great excuse to go back there and try it again. Something to look forward to, something to plan around. Or two, should I have waited till I was older to do something like this because it's been a dream that that has allowed me to follow and stay focused to chase. And, of course, I'm grateful that I summited. I'm grateful that everything went well. But I've learned so much more about myself, I think, returning than I did preparing to go.
Wow.
Because it's not easy to deal with these emotions. I feel the truth is I have definitely been struggling with this idea of imposter syndrome. And I think people only see parts of what you're doing. They see the highlights on the internet. They see the content. But nobody is with you when the lights are off, when you wake up early in the morning, dealing with kind of that like anxiety that I think a lot of business people, like you don't have to be a climber to do it. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Like
100%.
I think it's typical, and we beat ourselves up over it. And I'm working through those emotions. Like every day I really am working through those emotions, asking myself sort of, what's my purpose? Yeah. You know what I mean?
What am I looking forward to?
Exactly.
Right? Now that I've accomplished this,
right?
What do I look forward to? And I think it's super important for not just entrepreneurs, but like literally everyone to look forward to something.
100%.
And when you're in that mindset of like growth,
right?
And you look at life really in a way that it's like it's bigger than just you, right?
Totally.
You need something to really look forward to, and I could just. I never thought that this was going to be something that you were going to bring up. Honestly, I thought, you climb Mount Everest, you felt like a badass,
100%.
But just you coming back and feeling that is something that I felt a lot of different. After I graduated college, in all honesty, I mean, I went to school for my parents.
Right.
Like, literally, my dad was like, "You're going to school, sign up at whatever you need to do, but you're going to school no matter what."
Right.
And I've always been an entrepreneur from a very young age. My dad's in the jewelry business. They had a very successful jewelry manufacturing business, and he retired early. He's invested a lot in real estate. And so, when I was in high school, I was selling candy, and you
Right.
know, then in college, I became a car salesman for 2 weeks, and then got fired because I can't have anybody be my boss, unfortunately. and then I started selling shoes at a swap meet, and
Right.
I went from there. I've opened up a couple businesses, and I think that real entrepreneurs need to have something to look forward to when they don't. And when in my life, when I didn't have that, they weren't good moments. I'll be honest with you. So what are you doing to kind of find that next thing, or have you found it? And if so, what is it?
Right. So I am trying to, I heard a great phrase that said, discipline comes in when motivation is lacking. And when I was highly disciplined, it didn't matter like the motivation, because I was so focused on accomplishing this goal that like everything was so dialed in, from my workouts to nutrition to time blocking at work, because I only had so much time to allocate to the business because I was distracted doing other things. And it's funny that when you have more on your plate, you find yourself more productive and more organized than when you don't have as much going on.
100%.
And now I am finding myself having to sort of lean on certain disciplines that I honestly don't have back yet, that I'm trying not to be too critical of myself, because we're so critical of ourselves that it can kind of be debilitating. I think it's very normal that like very high functioning people are also their worst enemies.
Totally.
Because I could do 100 things in the day, but all I'm thinking about is the 1,000 that I didn't do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to lean into sort of the process of just doing the work and praying that the rest falls into place. So I've been pouring myself into the business since I've been back. I've been pouring myself into my team since I've been back. That has been a complete change as far as where my focus is. Not as much selling, but more so how I can support them. And that hasn't been easy. It's, I think that's why a lot of salespeople end up selling their whole lives, because they don't want to build the business.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to manage people.
They don't want to build the team.
They don't want to build the team.
Because that's where the things get scary, right?
What I'm learning is that in the place of discomfort is when the most growing happens.
Yeah.
So anytime that I have something in my life that I begin to have the weird spidey sense that I'm like,
oh my gosh, I'm nervous about this.
I run to it and say yes.
Go 100% in, grab it.
You got to grab it and you got to run with it. Like I remember at the Tom Ferry Summit last year, I wrote in my notebook, I'm going to be on the stage. Honest to goodness. And I'm not one to be
serious?
Honest to goodness. And I still have that notebook. I said, I'm going to be on the stage. And I was sitting next to my buddy, Derek Gregory. He's a salesperson he's an agent out of Florida. And, we joke, we moved on, and that was it. And I still had all the other goals that I was working on, climbing Everest, this in the business, making content. And, sure enough, less than 1 year later, Tom hits me up and is like, yo, you want to be on the stage? And I remember thinking to myself immediately, like, no, I don't. I've spoken in front of people before, but nothing like this.
Yeah, totally.
And at that moment, I was just like, just say yes and you'll figure it out. Like, just say yes and you'll figure it out. And sure enough, I said yes. And then I'm thinking to myself, what can I do to be really prepared for this? Go hire a speech coach. Like, nobody gets on stage at a high level that hasn't been like coached in some sense. Yeah. Like, I have a coach in business. Why wouldn't I have a coach to help me in speaking? Yeah. And that's what I did. And it really helped me. And I just believe that what I'm looking for now is opportunities that put me out of my comfort zone, because I feel like that's where I'm growing the most. So when it's like 4:45 on Wednesday afternoon and I really don't want to call anymore, the little monkey in my head is like, I bet you this next call is the one that picks up that's going to transact.
Totally.
It's true. Yeah. Or it's like, I hate the sound of my voice.
Oh my gosh.
I hate the sound of my voice.
Honestly.
I'm never going to listen to this podcast.
Okay. I'm going to tell you something that I honestly, what kept me away from video, and then give it back to you, okay? Like, the sound of my voice has been the one thing that has held me back from like everything.
Right.
I have a learning disability. I You know, I like have a hard time with reading, writing, and just the sound of my voice was the thing that like kept me from not only talking to people for a long time.
Right.
It's the thing that kept me from making videos. It's you know, just I'm my biggest critic. And so, I mean, I'm doing video because of you. You know that, right? Like literally seeing you and do the videos that you do, being so like, you just do it. And it's you and you're honest. You know, like I've been saying for years that I wish I can do that. And one day I was just like, you know what? I'm doing it. He just like did a video where he's like crawling and there's like he's like on the ground and there's like these fake bombs going off and he's like doing a video about real estate while he's like in a war scene. And I was like, holy crap, if Krys can do this, that I need to do this.
100%.
And it looks so fun and I need to just stop caring about how I sound.
100%. I think so. This is the funny thing about successful people is like, I want to tell you, take it easier on yourself.
Yeah.
Love yourself.
Yeah.
Be kind to yourself. But at the same time, I'm just like, no, be hard on yourself because that's what's causing you to stay up late.
Yep.
Be hard on yourself because that's what's causing you to show up and get on the podcast when you don't want to.
When you're nervous.
When you're nervous, you know?
Or reschedule it.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's so easy to want to make those decisions. But really what I've learned from climbing, what I've learned from real estate, what I've learned from life is that the hardest decisions are generally the ones that reap the most reward. The road that nobody wants to travel is typically the one that is like giving you the most fruit because if it wasn't, everybody would be on it. And that is hard when you're in the weeds. With the video stuff that I really am admiring you because you jumped in, you really have jumped in, is it's difficult to not care so much about what people are saying.
Totally.
But what I've learned through just building the muscle of showing up regularly is when you focus on being able to give the person something of value, and value can look a couple different ways. Yeah. Value could be informative. I'm telling you about something. Value could be entertainment. I'm making you laugh.
Wow. Yeah.
When you commit to giving people the value, it don't matter what you sound like, what you look like, what you smell like. I mean, Gary Vee. I don't think anybody's watching Gary Vee because he's good looking.
No. You know what? I will say his hair, like...
It's gotten better.
It's gotten a little better. It was going away a little bit, and then suddenly, somehow, it started coming back.
That's called money.
It's called money. Shout out Gary Vee. Okay?
Shout out Gary. And I mean that with respect, but like,
Totally.
I don't think Gary Vee thinks he's built his audience on his looks.
No.
I also don't think Gary Vee is the most eloquent speaker.
Agreed.
I think Gary Vee is authentically Gary Vee, and he's built a community that fucks with Gary Vee.
A big tribe that's just all about Gary.
100%. There's this brilliant marketer named Seth Godin, and I learned of him through Tom Ferry, but he's, you know, like a best-selling author, all about marketing. And he says that your vibe attracts your tribe. Your vibe attracts your tribe. And that is why I said to you off camera earlier, there's no competition. There's no competitiveness with us being in the same market because at the end of the day, people that want Sergio don't want Krys. People that want Krys don't want Sergio. And there are so many people out there looking for help that there's an abundance.
Total abundance.
Like if everybody raised their hand in LA, I wouldn't be able to help
Literally.
them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like that scarcity mindset or that like mindset of where I'm holding these secrets and I can't share with you what I'm doing. No, I'm trying to help you find everybody that wants to fuck with you, and vice versa.
Agreed.
I don't know how we got on.
I have no clue.
Like,
I think we were talking something about Mount Everest. That's all I remember. You know. No, I mean, look, you know, taking it. Before I have some questions laid out, but honestly, this kind of came to mind.
Please.
You're back, right?
Yep.
You've been here for now 3 months after your trip to Mount Everest. You've kind of talked a little bit about finding, your purpose again, I guess, right? In a way, you're building this team and you're going all in on the team. Challenge is there.
Oh.
Because just so you kind of know a little bit backstory, I tried building a team and I failed.
Right.
And, I learned so much, and I would honestly do it all over again because I think the things I learned were super invaluable, but what's going on with your team? How are you creating it? What lessons have you learned from it?
So a couple things. You didn't fail building your team. It just wasn't the time for you to have the team at the time that you were doing it. But I am very confident that whatever you did and learned from that opportunity or that experience is only setting you up for the next go around. And that's how you have to look at all these obstacles is I've tried to climb other mountains in the past, literally. I'm talking literal mountains. There's a mountain in Bolivia, one of the biggest in South America. It's called Illimani. It's almost 22,000 feet, biggest in Bolivia, one of the biggest in the Andes. And I spent all this time, energy, money to climb this mountain, and I failed. Literally. Didn't make it to the top. And it crushed me. It crushed me crying. It crushed my spirit. It fucking crushed me. And I had to look at that and say to myself, did you fail or did you do what needed to happen in order for you to climb Mount Everest? Because is it cooler for you to have summited Illimani or is it cooler to have failed for you to make it to this next chapter? So for you, it's yeah, it would have been dope to launch this team the first go around, but if failing here meant that it was just propelling me to be here later, that's part of the ride. That got you there. Yeah. And I really believe that. And I have to tell myself that every time that I'm getting an objection that I can't overcome, or every time I feel like I'm hitting a roadblock with the team that they're just not quite understanding what I'm trying to explain to them. Whatever it is, you have to look at the obstacles that we're encountering in life, not to fuck us, but they are there to teach us something. And it really is just up to us to shift the perspective, to look at it that way. But it's hard when you're in the weeds. So it's been challenging because like a lot of people here that are at the NAREP event, I want to sell. I want to be in front of people.
I want to be out there.
I want to be out there.
I want to be depositing those checks.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
This is reality.
That is the reality. And I think it's normal to feel like nobody can do it as well as you. Yeah. But the challenge that I'm overcoming is the more that I can support them, the more that I can be patient and teach them what I think was working for me, the more that I can sort of package what's been working for Naheed for 34 years and give to them is where I find rejuvenated joy.
Wow.
And it hasn't been easy. And 2022 has been definitely a year of learning, a year of growing. And I'm 100%. Very excited for the market shifting the way that it is because it's requiring people to sharpen their skills rather than rely on an economy that is giving them the production.
Agreed.
It's a skill-based sport. And that's the beauty, but also the bad when it comes to sales is there's no hiding. It's a performance-based game.
Period.
Period. Ain't no effort awards.
Yep, 100%. You're closing the deal or you're not closing the deal.
That's exactly right. But what I am focusing on is the parts that I can control. And what I'm encouraging them to focus on are the daily actions that we can control. So for me, there's some non-negotiables. And for anybody that's watching this that maybe is familiar with me, you can trust that I'm posting content every single day.
Daily.
It don't matter what's happening, I'm posting.
Wow.
I try to apply the same thing with the prospecting. It don't matter what my day looks like, I'm going to make calls. We have the hour of power every single day.
We call it the golden hour on my end.
The golden hour. It's non-negotiable. Yeah. You don't sell a house every day, but I can guarantee that I'm making calls every day. And the goal is to set appointments every day. And I think for young agents, it's challenging to trust that it's going to work.
The process, right?
The process. It's very challenging to trust that this call might result in an appointment that might result in a transaction. And the person that hung up on you is just one person closer to the person that's going to say yes to you. It's hard, though.
I was so frustrated for such a long time because I didn't understand how these agents that I brought onto the team, some of them I literally paid for them to get their license. Like, I paid for their testing, their exam, to go schedule their exam. Like, I really invested so much time into them, and they were super hardworking, and they were dedicated, and they wanted to put the time in, and they did, a lot of them. I didn't understand why they couldn't make the connection that making the calls, right, daily,
Right.
every day, making those calls resulted in appointments.
Right.
Appointments then resulted in transactions.
Right.
Transactions resulted in checks.
Right.
Money in the bank.
Right.
To me, it was like, it's so clear, right? And I, even after the team kind of went away, for a long time, I just told myself, why couldn't they see it? They had it so, it was in front of them.
Right.
And I realized that it was, for them, they could see it. It was just, they couldn't trust
The
it.
process. Yeah, man.
And that's different. You can see it. You can see something, but it doesn't mean that you can necessarily trust it. That's a whole nother
Right.
animal.
Well, you have to, and especially for us, for as much as we think we know, having been in this industry, we're still very green. But what
Totally.
I'm fortunate of is that at least we've seen enough that I can trust that I know what I'm doing will work. And it's hard when you've made calls for 3 days or 3 weeks and they haven't resulted in a transaction, but you have to trust that they will. You really do. And I think, especially in real estate, we don't give ourselves enough time to succeed. Period. We just don't give ourselves enough time to succeed. And it's partly because people don't see how much time it takes to really get things done. Like, it's not sexy for me to tell you that I was training and planning to climb Mount Everest for 10 years. All we want to see is me climbing. Like, all we want is that picture of me on the top.
Oh, man.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the
Yeah.
problem with like agents in the business that don't see the big picture, is like, all they want to do is make a video. All they want to do is post a video. All
And
they
get
want to
the
do
likes.
is, yeah, exactly, is cash a check. And it's, taking a step back and recognizing that piece that you're associating with success is just 1/10 of all the work that you need to do behind the scenes that nobody sees, that nobody cares about. And I mean, we're partly to blame for that. Like, I'm there scrolling as well. We want immediate satisfaction. Amazon contributes to this.
Yep,
this, like,
totally.
I need it now type
the
of...
buy button really quick.
Right, exactly.
And then it's on your, doorstep, essentially, right?
Right.
Totally.
But I don't think there's any substitute. There's, like, no substitute for the grind.
Yeah.
And I don't think grind has to be negative. It's just, there's no substitute for hard work. And I think for me, especially being somebody that's like, in my mind, like very like striving to achieve more, is that we have to set daily disciplines that are measurable, that when we finish work for the day, I feel like I've accomplished something. Because I can't promise that I'll open an escrow every day. I can really try. I want to. That's my goal.
Yep.
But what I can promise you is that I will have posted one video. What I will promise you is that I will have made 23 contacts. What I will promise you is that I'm trying to set 5 appointments a week, whatever that is.
Wow.
So that shakes out to 1 a day, whatever
Yeah,
your numbers
totally.
are. But you need to, like, that's why fitness is important, is it makes you feel good that you're getting things done.
Those endorphins, right?
Right.
Start working.
Or that's why they say make your bed in the morning.
Yep.
Because it gives you one thing that you've done that allows you to feel like you've accomplished something. I've had days that I've done a million things. And I end the day feeling like I didn't get shit done. And it's not because I didn't get anything done. It's because I had no plan. and I was never feeling satisfied.
Wow.
And that's something that I think that like young entrepreneurs and young business people, anybody really needs to figure out is like, what is your goal? Because you just will work and spin wheels just to spin them. And that's dangerous because, well, it's just dangerous for people that don't have the off switch. And I think that immigrant mentality that like, yo, I'm telling, I'm
right here. 100%.
I'm the
honestly.
For real, man. Like, I'm going to try to run so fast that my body lights on fire.
Boom.
Why though?
Yep.
Why though? You know, my wife is a plastic surgeon and she's all about the balance. She's all about the balance. I'm doing this because it's going to provide me this quality of life. I'm working like this because it's going to give me this kind of time. And that's not the way that I operate.
Or programmed.
Or
right?
programmed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like you should set the goal to keep you in check. And it's because life is not about always making the money. It's about like the balance. It's about what it's about. It's about the relationships. It's about the connections.
The real stuff, right?
The real stuff, you know? And I think it's hard. I think it's hard being like a young person. It's just hard being a person. And, you know, I'm guilty of it. Like I probably spend more time than I need to thinking about how to make more money rather than like how to help people.
Yep.
And it's funny because when you start thinking about like how I can help people, like I was really looking forward to this and I was really looking forward to like you and me connecting because I see how much energy you're putting into this. And then suddenly, isn't it funny that when you start thinking about other people, you feel better? Yep. And it's just like so, you know, we're figuring it out as we go along. And there's just, I think one thing that I admire about some of the like OGs that came before me, I think of Nahid, my mom is one of them, is to continue to get older, but still be very coachable and still be very of the mindset that like we're always learning, we're always growing. Because there's people that are my peers that are like, I got this all figured out. Don't tell me nothing.
Yeah. Don't even talk to me.
Don't even talk to me.
Yeah. We know, we both know a couple of us.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly. And it's funny because I'm like, dog, you're a real estate agent. Like, don't forget, don't forget
forget
what our purpose and our goal is with all of this. It's like helping these people. Like, it's a job. We're trying to take care of our families.
Don't forget why you're here.
Dude,
right?
100%. And, you know, it's funny because especially the Everest thing is like such a topic. Everyone's like, Everest this, Everest that. And, you know, part of me, the egotistical part of me is like, yeah, climb Mount Everest. Then the other part of me is like, it's a fucking mountain. Nobody. It's like, get over yourself.
I was just walking.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
like,
I guess climbing.
Yeah, but that's my point.
Yeah.
It's like, don't make this bigger than what it is.
Yeah.
Don't make this bigger than what it is. And I think that's like a big thing that I'm constantly checking myself. And that's what's nice about being in NAREP. It's nice about being in Tom Ferry. It's nice being like in relationships with people like you is I want to be the smallest person in the room. Like if I'm the biggest name in the room, I'm in the wrong fucking room.
Oh, man. You have no clue. Literally, the last like 2 weeks, that has been my thing. I asked myself, what do I need to do to put myself in groups where I'm the smallest, you know,
Right.
whatever in the group. Like I'm the small apple, I guess, right? And like I just want to surround myself with people that are just bigger than me.
Right.
Right? Because I want to attract that success to me and I want to get to know these people. I mean, it's so interesting. I mean, you like Gabe Mendez, like, you know, a bunch of the people that are on the NAREP board, right? Like, how can I connect with them? And really, like, literally, one of my photographer, my videographer, he just told me, just DM them, just send them the message. Krys, it was so hard to send the message to you.
Which is crazy to me. Which is crazy to me.
It just...
We build these
I
obstacles.
read it multiple times. I read the message multiple. Yeah, correct. Exactly. We build obstacles.
Yo, that's what's beautiful about social media and having a guy like Joaquin in your corner is literally everybody is one DM away.
One DM.
One DM away. And it might not be the first DM, but everybody is now more accessible than ever before. And you just have to shoot your shots with everything. That's why I think the man on the street with the microphone is such a powerful tool. It's not because it's fun content and it makes people laugh. All that is great. But it requires attention, focus. It requires taking yourself out of the situation to go talk to a stranger and put a banana in their face. It's not easy. That's the ultimate form of prospecting. Like, people
100%.
think door knocking is rough. Think about putting a camera in somebody's face and asking them a question to record. So
it's convincing them to say yes,
them, for real.
And being okay with them saying no, and understanding that it's not because they don't like you.
No,
that was hard for me, honestly.
100%.
But I learned that today. I mean, you know, we were out there, so our guests know we were at the conference. We had a banana, a microphone hooked up to it. We were going around asking a couple questions, and there were agents and lenders that said no.
Absolutely.
And at first, it was like, whoa, like. You're saying I felt rejected, honestly. Like,
right.
Why don't you want to talk to me?
Right.
Right. And then I realized they were just not ready.
Totally.
They just weren't ready.
That's how,
and that's okay.
100%.
Right.
That's how we have to treat the prospect when you're on the phone with them. They're not cussing you out. They're not upset about what you're doing. They're upset about something else, and you happen to be on the other side of it that day.
And they just weren't ready for your call.
They just weren't ready. That's why I think showing up regularly is so important, because you don't know what day they're going to be ready. That's the funny thing about like posting consistently and making the calls consistently and following up consistently is like, I can't control what day you're going to be in the mood to hear my message. But if I show up every day, the chances are going to be one of these days you're going to be in the mood to hear what I have to say. And that's where the consistent part comes into place, is because you can't time when people want to hear your message. And that's why you got to show up a lot. One thing that I've discovered that I didn't have figured out and I don't have figured out, but the advice that I have to put yourself in a room with other people that are bigger than you is continuing to say yes to opportunities that you might not understand. And I put an asterisk on it because we have to be mindful of our time.
Of course.
And people will suck the time out of you.
100%.
However, I have been finding myself saying yes to a lot more things, trusting that God and the universe have a bigger plan for me to be in the right place at the right time. I really mean that. NAREP was a prime example. I was leaving to climb Everest in a week when Eric was down my throat asking me to join. And I'm just like, this isn't for me. I'm not even Hispanic. Like,
what from Egypt, man?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, he sells me on like brown is brown. No, I just kidding. But whatever it was, I love that. I wasn't feeling like I wanted to commit to anything. And I said, sure, fine. I just said yes. Submit.
I'll do
it. And sure enough, it created opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Wow.
You know, I didn't want to make videos. I really didn't want to make videos. I came from the legal background where you don't share anything personal, especially having tattoos. I was like very buttoned up. I didn't want to show anybody that side of me. But I said, let's just do it. And then it opened all these doors. And that's really the piece that I feel like I want people to understand, is that the more resistance, and I think I said that already, the greater the chance that it's going to like be prosperous. Not just financially, but personally rewarding, professionally rewarding, is that you don't get the satisfaction out of the easy things. You really get the satisfaction out of the things that provided you a little bit of like grief.
Yep.
But that's not easy. But it's also not easy to be successful. Like you were talking about it being lonely, you know, most things that are very desirable are incredibly lonely. You know, like mountaintops aren't very big for many people. You know what I'm saying?
There are parties happening up there.
Exactly. And that process is lonely. Like winning is a lonely sport. And what I've found is that the more you win, the more the haters come out that are trying to bring you back down to their level. And the reason they're doing that is because you are making them feel a type of way that they were already feeling, but you're bringing it to the surface.
Got it.
You know, and they don't want to see other people shine because it's making them feel more insecure. But we can't get caught up in it, especially in the sales game where mindset is everything. Like, it's so difficult to be creative, which, man, agents really believe they're not creative. That's probably the biggest objection I get to people that want to start making content. And I'm like, I'm not creative like you. I'm not creative. And what's funny about this idea about agents or entrepreneurs not being creative is they are arguably the most creative people in the world.
I 100% agree. They're out there.
They are out there, man, to overcome an objection.
Environments.
1,000,000%. But the problem is people identify creativity with drawing.
Totally.
Or music or filming a video. They don't identify creativity as problem solving, as communicating. And those are the limiting beliefs that prevent you from ever having a breakthrough, but they're also the things that are very difficult to do if you don't have a strong mindset. So what I mean by that is it's very difficult for me to come up with ideas if I'm in a bad mood. The same way that it's very difficult for me to come up with like the energy to make calls and prospect if I'm in a bad mood. Right? Totally. So that's why the state of mind is so important, because the higher our vibrations are, generally the more energy we have, the more that we're able to share that with people, the more that it gravitates like people to want to be around us.
And emulates that and just brings everybody together.
It really does. It really does. And I think negativity is like, that is what stifles creativity. Bad energy is what stifles creativity. Totally. That's why when, I think about, we were talking earlier about the importance of who you surround yourself with. I think that if you have a small group of people and there's one person in there that is not uplifting you, you got to cut them. Love them from a distance.
Love them from a distance.
I learned that. You got to love people from a distance, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. You love them, but from arm's length, because if people are interfering with your mental health, like interfering with your ability to love yourself, there's no space for it.
It needs to be controlled, right?
It has to be.
Because it's so hard to show up every day sometimes, right? And being with that right mind. I mean, it's easy to just show up. It's hard to show up with a purpose.
Man, you've been...
Right?
It is incredibly hard. And that's, we were talking about this imposter syndrome thing earlier, but I've been getting all these DMs, people tagging me and stuff, fuck your mood. I had said that at the Tom Ferry thing. People are loving me with this little phrase where I said, fuck your mood. Like, you're not in the mood to make your calls? Fuck your mood. Make the calls. You don't want to post a video? Fuck your mood. Post the video. And it's beautiful, right? It's like all these people have been inspired by this, but then I'll see the video and they're like, I made my calls, or I'm at the gym, and then I'm looking at myself and I'm like, yo, like, are you a fraud? You didn't go to the gym this morning.
Wow.
Like, you didn't set the appointment like you said you would. Look at them. They're looking at you like you're doing this and you're not doing this. And I don't know if me sharing this is like my ultimate accountability, but it's just, we're all going through these same hurdles. And I definitely don't want any of this to come off like I have it figured out or
like I'm perfect, right?
No, it's like so far from.
Wow.
Like the demons and I think I have to tell myself it's normal. Like I have to tell myself other people are dealing with this too. But it's a funny balance, because it's like I'm pouring so much into people and I want people to do well and succeed, and then they look at me like I'm this like shiny example, and I'm like, my shit's fucked up.
You're just so authentic, man. I mean, honestly, like I look at other people and as a realtor, I can smell BS, right? I mean, I think most realtors can.
The ultimate smellers of BS.
Yeah, literally. We can smell it from a mile away. And so you really what you're sharing, right? Like that you're going through these struggles, and that even though some people are seeing you as like a god, right? Like you feeling like, well, I'm actually still having a hard time with this, right? And that truth behind that. I mean, thank you for sharing that, man.
I appreciate it, man.
I'm experiencing that because sometimes you see like all the perfect stuff, right?
Right.
And you don't see the ugly sometimes.
100%. And I think it's human nature. I read this in a book. It's human nature to want to feel like we're very special. So it's we all want to be special. That special can sometimes even mean being a victim. Because if we're the victim, then people feel bad. Or if you're the enemy, people are like people don't like you. or you're the hero. Whatever it is, people want to be special. And I think when we start feeling like we need to be special, we start creating excuses for ourselves. It's like, oh, that doesn't apply. Like Krys says that, but that doesn't really apply because he's still this. No, it actually does. You know, like I got a wife who I'm trying to keep happy just the same. I have bills to pay just the same. Or, you know, they don't understand because like I have a learning disability.
Yeah.
Or English is a second language. And I'm like, my guy, you know how many people like English is a second language? Yeah, exactly. It's like you're not alone.
Yep.
But when you say you're not alone, it makes us not feel special. And I think that's one thing that I keep telling myself, and I don't mean this negatively, it's like I'm not that special. Because when I say that when people want to say they're special, it's because they want things to not apply to them. When in fact, we're all the same. Like,
It's an even playing field.
It's an even playing field. And like, as soon as you can recognize that like you ain't shit, as soon as you can recognize that people are dealing with the same stuff, is as soon as you're able to sort of level up and get past to the next like phase, to the next chapter, to the next wherever it is that you're moving towards. It's that like personal awareness. And I think that's where the internet can be a dangerous place because you can get sucked in and it's hard not to care about what other people are thinking, but it's also a beautiful thing because as soon as you can let go, say, fuck it.
Take me. Let's go.
Like, think whatever you want of me.
Yeah.
Think whatever you want of me. I know what I'm about. But it's not easy. You know, like, I don't know if, I would imagine that even guys like Tony Robbins, Tom Ferry, you know, Bill Gates, I would imagine that they still have days that they're wondering, like, am I doing it right?
Yeah, totally. I want to take it back a little bit.
Please.
I was listening to Tom Ferry a couple of days ago, and I just started really listening to him for a long time in my career. Kind of the agents around me told me, like, you know, that's a cult. Like, don't. Tom Ferry's a cult, okay? So they're like, don't go listen. You know, don't follow that. That's just like, you know, a bunch of crazy stuff.
Right.
And then, like, I started listening to one of his podcasts, some of his videos, religiously, like, set time aside just to do it.
Good.
And I realized, like, oh my gosh, exactly what he's talking about and what his guests on the shows talk about is everything that I'm going through. Not just like in entrepreneurship, but like specifically in real estate.
100%.
And he brought up something recently, and I think he called it the 6 steps to essentially like reach your goal, right? And it was like there was these 6
of mastery.
Mastery, exactly. The 6 steps of mastery.
I listened, Tom.
Yes, and it just blew me away.
Right.
You have this period of time, you know, kind of like the first step. It's like 60 days of like really doing it religiously, no days off. Like you're doing it no matter what, right? And then he keeps going, and it's like you know, I think stage of like 4 is like the quantum leap, or stage 5, and then stage 6 is like when money's coming in and business is getting done, even though you're not there.
Right.
What blew me away was the first couple stages, honestly, because for a long time I wanted to jump to stage 5 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You just want to skip everything.
I just want to skip it.
Right.
I just wanted to get there.
Right.
And I started asking myself, why? Like, why is it that I want to just like get there right away,
right,
and skip all of the stages before that? And I realized that it was this belief in me that I needed to prove to everyone else that I was doing it, that I was a badass. I didn't want anybody to see the real
100%
Sergio, right? Man,
it's facts, man.
Honestly,
you're not alone, and we're all in that same thing. That's why I think at some point, you know, that's why I admire these old guys, because I do believe experience and age plays a role in that, where you at some point in your life are content with yourself. You know, at some point you're not trying to make anybody happy other than yourself. And I think it's important for us to learn earlier on that it don't matter what these people are thinking, because you know what? When you get to level 6, they're still going to be hating. And the people that were on your side are still going to be on your side. So like all that noise never goes away. It never changes. And I mean, I think we're very similar, but even from somebody that like, you know, people think are doing these like cool different things, like climbing Everest or speaking at the Tom Ferry Summit, it's like I'm dealing with the same shit where it's like I'm trying to skip past steps. Like I'm trying to skip 1 through 5 and just get to this mastery when it's really not about that. You know, if I won the lottery tomorrow, maybe for a week I would party. Maybe for a month I'll travel. Maybe even for a whole year. But what about after that? You know, what about after that? Like, what about when it's not fun to be like on the yacht anymore? Like at some point that stuff does get old, you know? And I think it's part of the growing process.
And changing the mindset, right?
100%. That I'm not in it for the goal. I'm in it for the process. And I think that was a big thing with the mountain is I was on the summit for 30 minutes.
Wow.
I climbed for 2 months. I trained for 10 years. I spent an exorbitant amount of money. You know, like
gear and everything.
Everything, you know, like it's this big thing. And if the whole point is just for the picture at the top, you are in for a rude awakening.
You're in it for the wrong reasons.
You're in it for the wrong reasons.
I want to tell you something.
Give it to me.
I recently, in the last couple months, changed my mindset. I honestly believe it's God, right, that kind of helped me get there. I think it's some really difficult moments that I've gone through, right? I met you 2 years ago, I think. I don't know, at a property. There was a showing that was happening in Whittier. And we were all outside of the property. The agent booked us all at the same time.
Height of COVID.
Yes, right? During COVID. So we were all booked at the same time. The market was crazy. The odds of getting this offer accepted, me or you getting this offer accepted, were this big. And I was having a hard day, very difficult day. And so when I showed up to the showing, I was just a robot. And I showed the house, and I was coming out through the side. You know how they used to make us go in and then wrap around. You know, you go through the front door and then go out the back and then go down the side of the house and kind of do like everybody was kind of doing that during COVID. And as I was coming out, you were there with another agent, and you just came up to me and were like, "Hey, Sergio, how are you, man?" I don't know if you remember this.
I don't.
And
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. And my point here is, when you said hello to me, I said, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Literally, who is this guy? Right? You told me something like, "Oh, you've submitted multiple offers on my property and all this stuff," right? To me, I wasn't prepared. I didn't have the right mindset. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would be sitting down here with you on this podcast. In that moment, I was just like, I'm having a bad day.
Right.
I don't need this positive, because you were super positive, I'll be honest. I don't need this positivity. So, you know, I really appreciate you coming on the show and just sharing all the knowledge. I want to let you know that, you know, it means a lot to me.
Absolutely, brother.
I think completely all the questions went out the window. I really, really think we took it to the next level.
I hope so.
And we really did. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergio.
Where can our listeners connect with you online? Please share. I would love for, you know, everybody to go follow.
Absolutely. So we're very active on social media. You can find me at Krys Benyamein on Instagram. You can visit us at our website, estateofgrace.com. I welcome the texts. I welcome the DMs. I really do try to respond to everybody.
Phone number?
Oh yeah, you can always call me. My phone number is in my bio on Instagram, but it's 714-588-1017. Text me, call me. I really am here for the people, and I respect you, Sergio. I respect you. I admire you. I really hope that we were able to give some value, because I feel like I was all over the board.
We totally did. And stay tuned. I'm already signing you up. Podcast number 2.
Deal.
Okay?
I'm there.
It needs to happen.
I'm there,
There's more that needs to, you know,
Deal.
get on the table.
Deal.
I love it.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, man.